Here's one here's one aspect of the game, one aspect of sociosexual dynamics that I think is important. As a man, we need to display something called Dicksipline. Dick discipline. We need to have some type of sexual discipline where there are certain lines that we do not and will not cross, right? Now, for me, it usually works like this, right? There are certain lines that I won't cross. Like, if I can tell that a homeboy got feelings for a girl, or if that's his ex or something like that, then I'm not going to overstep that boundary, right? Now, if I feel like that boundary is unavoidable, right, to be stepped, then my mindset on is this. If you're not comfortable enough to ask that homeboy if you have if you got the green light, don't do it. It's not worth it. It's never worth letting some pussy stand in between you and brotherhood or friendship or business or whatever it is. Like, it's not worth it. It's not. There's something called the green light, right? And I'll give an example of what I mean by that. There are instances where you'll be talking to a woman and maybe that was your ex, or maybe you had a friend who knew that, you were interested, or maybe you dealt with her, whatever it was, for a period of time. And it's important to have that conversation with your homeboy, if you find yourself in a situation. Like, let's say there was something in your game that was off, but there are certain aspects of your homeboy. Maybe he fits her imprint better. Maybe he is a guy who saws the way you went about the game and says, I could go about that a little bit better. And I think that you ask first, right? It's called a green light, right? And this is something where a funny part of this is sometimes what women will do is they'll sleep with a guy and think that by sleep with that man, they're getting back at the guy who they were sleeping with previously, right? They think that by doing that, they're getting something off, they're being spiteful or whatever it is. And a lot of those instances, man, we already know that, all right, she was looking at this guy a certain kind of way when I was around. You know what? Hey, bro, you got the green light, bro. Handle that. And often how that conversation to go with your homeboy is like, hey, bro, get an extra nut for me, bro. Go ahead, do your thing. Because it's one of those things. And also it's important to have that conversation is because you don't know sometimes if maybe your homeboy has a sexually transmitted issue, or has one of those issues, or has something like that going on, and because of that, you want to make sure you have that conversation with your homeboy ahead of time, right? Because if you just say, okay, well, I don't care, and he doesn't have to know, and you go deal with his ex, you don't know what that nigga got going on. If that dude says he's not cool with you sleep with his ex, for whatever reason, you don't know whether or not it's because he's trying to help you out, whether that girl's just super toxic, or whether it's a matter maybe she got something, or maybe you don't know what's going on. So have that conversation with your homeboy. Don't just slide on their exes. Don't just try to deal with women that they dealt with, and just think that it's always cool. It's not. And another thing that can happen is this. Yes, as men, you want to be G about shit. Yeah, as men, you want to be player about shit. Yeah, you want to have a certain level of confidence. But sometimes it's a situation where a man can't have that mindset with certain women, right? As a man, you can have that mindset with every woman, but there might be one or two. Maybe it was your first love, and another girl is just the girl who you was really into at the time, and you're just not over her yet. And by having that type of comparison between homeboys, it'll create strife. It'll create issues within the friendship that aren't necessary, that don't need to be there. And yes, you would want to think that you can handle that. Yes, you would want to think that it doesn't matter, but sometimes it does. As a man, just make sure that you're dealing with women with integrity, and make sure that you're dealing, because I'll say this right here too. Like, I'm in Orangeburg, South Carolina. This is a small town. The chances that you're never going to be Eskimo brothers with none of your friends is very small, especially when you're in a college town. You're going to a school, they're going to a school. Chances are, especially if your friends, you're running in a similar circle, then some of you may hit some of the same imprint marks for a woman, right? Or you may hit some of the same types, right? You may have certain personality similarities, or certain ways that you go about playing the game that are similar to where they're going to attract that same woman. And sometimes it's easier for her to just move within a certain friend group than it would be for her to go find somebody new. And I know that sounds weird to some people. Some people call that homie hopping. To a certain extent it is, to a certain extent it can be. But you have to understand this. Green light is pretty much you're just saying she for the streets, and you let her be that, right? Sometimes a man will think that a woman is a prospect. Sometimes a man is trying to take a woman serious. He has no business taken seriously, right? And when that's the case, and a man is trying to take a woman serious, he has no business taken seriously, and then she tries you sexually, you need to let him know what's going on. Like, hey, bro, she's trying me, bro. And you can tell this man's level of confidence, and you can tell whether or not he is a hater or whether or not he is a dude who's really G about his shit, about his response to you trying to deal with the woman that he thought was a prospect but that is coming at you sexually. Because that's how you know whether or not he's a man who's really about his, whether he's a low confidence man, right? You know, if a woman is displaying attributes that show she's for the streets, and then you don't treat that accordingly, you're disrespecting her boundaries. Let her be who she is. Let her be herself. But you also understand that there's a green light with that as well. But in certain instances, like let's say if a homeboy was in love with a girl, right? I'll say this right here, you know, and this is the mindset I used to have. I don't completely take that now, but my mindset about it used to be like this. You know, if a dude was dating a girl seriously, then if that was the homeboy, like yo homeboy, then my mindset used to be, don't even entertain that girl just on a fuck buddy level. Just entertain her if you would be willing to take it seriously. Like let's say you're friends, you're around each other, and they broke up for a while. Your homeboy has a new girl, and you're like, you know what? I really like her. Like, you know, her personality seems like it would be better suited for me, and I'm not trying to do dirty by her. What's up? Same thing like if your homeboy has a sister or something like that. And it's like, you need to have that conversation with him. Don't just be sneaking off with your homeboy's sister. A lot of times the sisters and exes should be off limits, but there are times when they're not. And the sister should be off limits unless you want to do right by her, right? Unless your homeboy understands the game that you run and says, you know what, you know, I see how you run your game. I think you run your shit with integrity. I don't have no issue with you dealing with my sister because she doing some goofy shit and she need to learn better, right? And sometimes it can work like that too. But just deal with integrity when it comes to how you deal with women and the women who are in the orbit or in the lives of your homeboys. Like, be real about that. Be honest. Be upfront about it. And, you know, honestly, sometimes you may lose friendships by being honest about it. But I'd rather you lose that friendship by being honest about it and instead of hitting it first and then having that conversation than if you just go ahead and smash your homie ex that he may still have feelings for, even though he may not be honest about it, and then he finds out, and then now y'all having a falling out. You know, when you play with people's hearts, things can go left like that. Sometimes people can get shot, people can get killed, people get stabbed up, things can turn into fights, things can turn into business issues and disputes. There's a lot of things that can happen when you don't deal with women with a certain level of Dicksipline, right? And there's just certain things you don't do, like certain things I wouldn't do. Like if my ex, let's say I have an ex, and let's say we're on pretty good terms or whatever it is, like there's certain things that you just shouldn't do, right? You shouldn't never let a woman think that by sleeping with somebody in your friend group that she's getting over on you, right? Never let her think that. Or you can let her think that, but never let that be the truth. Never let that be the truth. Listen, there's been times where I had friends and they had girls who came on to me, and I was like, and I told them about it. And if I told them about it and they weren't cool with it, guess what? I wouldn't even respond to the girl. I'll leave her on red. You know what I mean? I'll ghost her. Why? Because it's not worth sabotaging or sowing seeds of discord within brotherhood, within friendship. It's not worth it. Or let's say you have a ex and maybe you would be willing to get back with her. Don't be out there fucking her friends. You know what I mean? Like, show some Dicksipline. Don't be out here being goofy as hell. You know, maybe if it was a situation like what's his name? I forgot his name. I think Stephen Jackson or Stephen something. It's some basketball player, right? And the one who looks like George Floyd. Now, he did say, like, you know, he was trying to get a prenup with his girl, and she agreed to it, but then she wouldn't sign it. And then on the day of the wedding, she tried not to sign it, and he wasted $300,000 on a wedding that he didn't even get married to the girl because she was trying to manipulate him so that she would have access to his money after a divorce. And then that night, he slept with a friend. I ain't mad at him on that. That's a little different. But if you end with pretty good terms, or even if it's semi-bad terms, but you know that if push came to shove, you would be willing to get back with that woman, don't be out here fucking her friends. Show some Dicksipline. Show some Dicksipline. You know what I mean? It's just certain things that I think that as men, we need to not overindulge in certain stuff. Like, if it's going to put your business at risk, if it's going to put your relationships, your friendships, your future relationships, if it's going to put your reputation at risk, don't be dealing with certain women. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Keep your dick in your pants. There's other women out there to fuck. There's definitely other women. All right? And a lot of this has to do with men having an issue with finding women outside of their friend group to deal with. know how to find new bitches. Honestly, like, learn how to find new ones. You don't have to, like, always be moving within that same group, you know. And I know sometimes as a man, like, if you really know how to put your shit down, there, you know, sometimes you are gonna get some pussy off word of mouth. Like, sometimes there are gonna be instances where, you know, you're just being casual, you know, having casual sex, being fuck buddies with a female, and after you're dealing with her for a little while, you know, she really likes how you putting it down, so she gonna tell her friends about you. And when she tells her friends about you, it's, you know, they want to sample it out too. Now, some of those instances are cool, but you have to also understand that as a man, it's important to run your own program and for you not to be a hoe. And what I mean by a hoe is this. You know, just like I talk about with the Madonna whore complex that goes on. You know, within the Madonna whore complex, there's the Madonna, or I'll say there's the gents and there's gigolos. You know, you can hoe yourself out, but don't let nobody else hoe you out. You know what I mean? Like, if that's what you want to do, that's cool. But don't put yourself in a situation where a woman has power over you and she gets to choose whenever she wants to fuck with you, and then it's not on your program, it's not on your time. And I know when you first starting off your program, you first starting off your rotation, you first getting your game up, you know, at first it's probably going to be some women who play a little bit of games, and there's going to be some women who are kind of on point off the rip, but they're not, maybe they're not the fully as attractive as you would want them to be. And then there's like some other women who, you know, would be what you call it, they're fully attractive, they're on go, but they want you to do it on their time. Those women aren't liquid. Like, if a woman isn't sexually liquid, she's not submissive to you. So it's important to have sex, the sexual chemistry, sexual appeal, sexual power, but also have submissiveness. So some women, what they do in order to sleep with you when they're not looking for a relationship or in a casual situation, is they will make you the hoe. Have Dicksipline. Like, if a woman is trying to get you to acquiesce, if a woman is trying to get you to do things only on her time, you got to know how to tell that woman no. You have to know how to do things at your own pace. You have to know how to understand these things so you don't find yourself in a situation where you may get hurt, so you don't find yourself in a situation where you're getting played, where you're being used for sex. You know, I've been there before. It's not fun. Like, you can be friends with a woman, right? You can be friends with a woman for a while, and then y'all start being friends with benefits, and you're like, well, since we were friends before we started fucking with each other, then it's cool. I'm not gonna trip on her about certain things like I would with other women. And then you let that woman take control of the situation, and next thing you know, she's only hitting you up when she wants to fuck, but anytime you're trying to fuck, she's busy. Is, you know, and you're pretty much her hoe. You know, you don't really chill with her no more, even though you used to like chilling with her. And sometimes situations would or could or should work out better that way, but you have to make sure you're doing that on your time. Make sure you're doing that based off of your program. Don't let no woman get you in her program, whether that is a sexual or non-sexual program. Don't allow it. You got to put your foot down on that and say no. And sometimes there's going to be some pussy you're going to give up in the process, but it's not worth your self-respect. It's not worth your dignity. It's not worth your integrity. It's not worth you being in a situation where you're the hoe now. So, you know, it's just important that as men, we need to show a certain level of Dicksipline and just know what we're doing when it comes to the women that we deal with out here. And I'll say this as well. Like, let's say you're a Dom. Let's say you run your program on some Dom game type shit. Shout out to C Boogie. Let's say you run your program like a Dom and the women you deal with are subs. That is not a very socially understood and fully acceptable style of relationships. So let's say you run your situation like a Dom, which is where you give women punishments and rewards for how they treat you. Listen, I've been there before. If you try to have that situation with somebody in even a semi-business relationship, if a woman does not like the way that ends, that woman can take that whole situation that you had, that she was complicit with, implicit with, agreed to every step of the process, and then she could flip it around and try to portray you as some type of deviant or a monster. She could try to display you as some type of predator, a sexual predator, someone who doesn't respect women's boundaries, someone who doesn't respect women. You know, you could be, you know, choking this woman out. She can ask you to call her a bitch. You know, you can call her your nasty bitch, all this other stuff, your dirty slut. She can say, I'm gonna be such a little whore, all these different things, right? But the moment that situation isn't working out in her favor anymore, she can flip that whole scenario around, take a screenshot of one thing that you said to her, and then try to portray it as if you're some type of monster. So just display some Dicksipline. If you feel it in your gut that a woman isn't being submissive with you, you can feel it in the gut that a woman isn't with your program, you can feel it that she's starting to drift away. You know, sometimes you need to find a way to bow out. You need to find a way to get about that situation, and without going out of your way to disrespect a woman, and you can get out that situation sometimes without just ghosting a woman. I do agree with that sometimes. Like, sometimes a woman needs to just get ghosted, you just stop talking to her. But when you put yourself in those situations, women socially have way too much power when it comes to controlling the narrative of sexual situations, because the way that society perpetuates certain ideas and belief systems. So just understand what you're doing, show some discipline. Not all pussy is worth it. Not all pussy is worth it. If something feels off, don't do it. Something I'm good for, something I'm real good for. If I'm dealing with a woman and when I'm dealing with her, I don't like her energy doesn't feel submissive to me, she's not really putting any effort in how she's giving some head, I'll tell her to stop it. I'll get up and go. I'll leave. Why? Because it's not worth it. Like, every woman that you're dealing with, there is a risk. You know what I mean? There's always a risk. You know, even if it's a consensual situation, that woman can turn around and say that you raped her. Like, if her energy isn't submissive, like, consent isn't enough for me, right? Like, some people look at these BDSM situations and say that it's about not consent. No, it's even more about consent. I need more than consent. Consent isn't enough, because a woman can agree to something for reasons other than her desire. A woman can agree to fuck you because she wants some clout. A woman can agree to fuck you because she thinks that she wants a relationship. A woman can agree to fuck you because she wants some social clout, or she thinks you have money and she thinks you're going to spend it on her. And if you don't, and that's the reason why she does it, and you give her that impression, then if any of those things that she wants out of the situation don't pan out, then she can vilify you after the fact, right? If she thinks she's going to get some money out of it, she doesn't. So I think that's why it's important to just understand certain things. Don't over communicate. When you tell a woman is not on your program, don't over communicate, because when you do, she can take whatever you say and she can spin that shit. She can spin that shit. So just show some discipline. Show some discipline. Every woman is not worth sleeping with. Every woman is not worth it. I don't care how good she looks, because every woman that you're dealing with has a risk. You know, there's also the risk of STIs. It's like, listen, if a woman isn't fully on your program, she's acting funny, she's being a little weird, maybe she's trying to hide her coochie or whatever it is, you're trying to get in there, it's like, why are you not trying to show it? You don't know what's going on. Like, let's say you're dealing with a woman, she don't want to show you her pussy, right? You don't know if she's being that way because maybe she has some type of situation going on down there. You don't know what's going on. These are real things to think about. She's hesitant about certain things. You don't, like, don't push it. Like, if a woman is being a little funny about sleeping with you, you don't know if that woman really has herpes or something like that, or whatever STI she could have, and she's trying to convince you not to do it so that she won't have to tell you. But if you push it and then you don't allow her to bow out the situation without telling you the truth, a woman may have herpes and sleep with you and just hope and pray that you don't catch it, when it may be a situation where she was trying to tell you she was on her period or whatever it was to get out of having sex with you, so she wouldn't expose you to some shit. Like, you got to understand that there's a lot of things that come with this, why, you know, it's important to have more than consent. It's important to have enthusiastic consent, right? You know, every woman is not worth sleeping with. There's risks that can come with everybody. So if you do not feel comfortable in a situation, or if a situation may compromise your ability to make money, your ability to have a proper social standing, may put your reputation in jeopardy, may hurt your relationships with your friends or your family, it is not worth, the pussy is not worth it. There are other women out there. Show some discipline.